Today I'm sitting down with someone who's lived what truly means to be adaptable. Jourdan Ziff is a professional footballer who's played in different countries, cultures, and styles of the game, from the US to Finland, Brazil, and much more. She's the first American to score in Brazil's top women's league, and her journey is all about stepping into the unknown, staying grounded, and constantly growing through change. Now she focuses on building media and business projects that elevate women's sports through authentic storytelling and innovation. In this conversation, we're going to go deep into her mindset, how she adapts, performs under pressure, and how she finds balance through every transition on and off the field. Jourdan, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's quite the intro.
Good, good. I'm glad. I've been following you for a while since you were playing for Santos in Brazil. Creating the athletic school has been a long journey. Reaching 100 episodes has taken consistency, grit, and a lot of passion. Having incredible guests share their story has been a true pleasure. But now, I want to ask you for your help. If you haven't already, please follow the show on whatever platform you're listening from. It really helps me a lot. And I promise you this, I'll continue to bring on the best guest speakers I can, and I'll do my very best to share content that helps you grow, not just as an athlete, but as a person on and off the field. I will study, I will read, and research relentlessly for ways to help you. And I'll share everything I learned right here. This episode is sponsored by CaliforniaAvocadosDirect.com, delivering rich, creamy, hand-picked avocados straight from a family farm in Escondido, California, to your door. No middleman, no mass storage, just farm fresh quality you can taste and trust. Packed with healthy fats, potassium, and fiber, it's the kind of real fuel high performance need, whether you're grinding on the field or recovery from it. Use the code The Athletic School for 10% off of your first box at CaliforniaAvocadosDirect.com. It was just so interesting to find an American playing for Brazil in a Brazilian team, and I support Santos, so it was very interesting to see your journey there, and I'm just glad that we are getting to talk the chance to talk.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And I love how even that experience, I've had that before where I connect with more and more Brazilians because of that. So
Yeah,
fun to hear.
awesome. Yeah, we love any gringo that likes Brazil. We'll go for them for sure.
Yeah, I embrace
Um,
it.
let's talk about your mindset. What's been the biggest mindset shift in your journey as a player?
I think over over the course of my entire career in playing, I would have to say that almost my attention to each part of my life, balancing the physical, the mental, and the social, kind of giving attention to each of those has made the biggest shift. I think when you're younger and you're playing, you're training, you're having fun, um, and you think that it's mostly physical. Um, and then as you evolve throughout your career and getting into professional specifically, you learn more and more how every part plays such a factor. So I started paying more attention to, okay, like how socializing is important and sometimes not important, how the mental side can really affect my performance, not just physical training.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I came to the US almost like 7 years ago to go to school and play soccer, and my English wasn't good. And my school had so many Brazilians. So, you found yourself in a place where if you stay with the Brazilians, socializing, trying to forget that you're missing home, you also never learn English.
Right.
Or you get away from the Brazilians a little bit and, try to learn English, try to socialize with these people that you guys have nothing in common, but learn the English. So
Right.
it's funny to see how you're mentioning that, and of course we wish to have that knowledge back then.
Yeah, it really is such a balance. It's like not as simple of a formula as you might think of like, if I train hard, this is where I'm going to end up and this is how I'm going to do. It's like you start to learn, wow, there's a lot more that plays into my success somewhere.
For sure. And you played in so many different places. You just came back from a trip to another country.
Mhm.
um, how do you prepare yourself mentally, starting over, going to a new country, a new culture, a new team?
Yeah. It's interesting because if I think about that question, I almost think that what I did, what worked for me was to not overthink it. I
Mhm.
kind of led each decision I made, especially the ones that were very far away from home, um, post college. Because even for college, I grew up on the West Coast. I went all the way over to the East Coast. That was my first big jump. And I think I started just, you have a feeling of, okay, I think I want to try something. I think that sounds exciting, and then not overthink it. Because you can't think your way into making it make sense. So many of them, it's like, I can't envision what my life in Brazil is going to look like, what my life in Finland is going to look like. So it's kind of just not overthinking it. I think that's kind of what worked for me.
Mhm. Um, and I feel like sometimes we do, it's not necessarily I mean, it is overthinking, but we're trying to prevent, you know, a bad scenario where we're gonna go and we're not gonna like, and we're gonna might have regrets here and there. Um, are you a person that you just go with whatever comes to your mind, or you're like, wait a second, I think it's okay if I do that, and let me not overthink after you already thought about all the bad scenarios, you know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know what you mean. I'm actually really glad you asked that because you're right. My answer of not overthinking it might make it seem like I'm someone that is okay with spontaneity, with impulsive decisions. I am the opposite. I love structure. I love rationally thinking about every scenario. And I've had to grow accustomed to not being able to do that, which is why I think that is why I answer in that way, is because I had to combat every part of me for so long that wanted to make everything make so much sense, to say, okay, what are all the things that can happen? Am I fully prepared? Am I good enough to be there? All these things. I wanted answers to those, and I could not find them, but I didn't want it to not allow me to do something that kind of I felt like, how can I not take that opportunity? So I had to really channel a whole different part of myself that might have been more okay with no answers to some of those things. But I'm glad you asked that because, right, it's not, definitely was not natural to me to not be able to have a plan.
Mhm. So you move to the new country, you get there. I mean, we cannot even talk about the language barrier because, I mean, I don't know how much you knew of Portuguese, but also going to Finland, you went to some other country in Central America, if I'm not mistaken. So, you went to all the different countries as possible with different languages. Um, when it comes to adaptability,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you? How did you deal with adapting yourself to the team, to the culture, to the language?
Yeah. Yeah, I think language, I think I'll circle back to that because that is a huge one. I didn't know any Portuguese when I got
Hmm.
there. I didn't know any Finnish. And I wasn't very good at Spanish when I was in Puerto Rico. Canada, I got a little lucky. Everyone's speaking
Hmm.
English. But otherwise, adaptability, I think, to me, really meant, well, on the field did feel different than off the field. I think as a soccer player, adaptability was something I always just tried to be coachable. It's difficult as you're entering somewhere so new. You want to embrace what makes you you. But I also think it's important to know every team might need something different from you. And even if you're the best player and you're the most technical or you're about to be the star on a team, I think being coachable is still so important in adaptability to a team, to a group of people, and not even just for the coach, but you can be coachable from your teammates,
Hmm.
especially as you're stepping into their culture, a different style of play, and those things. And off the field, it's simple, or I mean, it's similar, but I think it still was an ability to just roll with the punches, again, to embrace that you might not know what's going on. And it's interesting because specifically for Brazil, that ended up being really critical to my recruitment
Hmm.
because I had a meeting with the coach when Santos reached out, and they were looking for someone that spoke a little bit more Portuguese,
Hmm.
that also kind of played a different position. And my initial meetings were just trying to portray my enthusiasm and my willingness to make it work. And that was a huge thing we discussed before I went to Brazil was there are not a lot of Americans that do this, and we don't want to invest in someone that can't handle such a culture shift, a lifestyle shift. And being adaptable was something I really had to channel again. I think it's something that came naturally, especially through each country. You start to become more adaptable to different things. But it was ended up being very critical for my ability to be recruited down in Brazil.
Mhm. Did you suffer, or did you have to overcome any type of preconception that people in those countries had with you because you were coming from the US, a place that it's not known for soccer?
Yeah, yeah. I I think in my head I thought of it more as what is their style of play
Hmm.
and how do I fit into that equation? Um, I had to really in the different countries, it was a different experience. In Brazil, it was challenging because I mean, Brazil soccer is the religion. It's what
Yeah.
everyone watches. It's what everyone, just it drives some of your just daily life, whether you play soccer or you don't. And it's known for being very technical, very flashy, and not necessarily that's my style. And I was starting to be announced there before I even stepped on the field. So I had to kind of really go inward and start working on okay, who am I here and what can I do and not think too much about how different I was going to be. Americans sometimes are known for being more physical or uh it's a different style of play.
Yeah.
And so I had to work on not letting it affect me too much, how different I was going to be.
Hmm. For sure. And let's say you get there, and as any soccer player, you go through ups and downs.
Mhm.
And when you lose confidence, what do you do in order to get that confidence back, or to just to
Yeah.
keep confidence, and how
Yeah.
to keep playing in a such a high level when everything around you is changing?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think I didn't realize that my confidence, I wasn't an unconfident player when I was younger, but I didn't realize that some of my confidence was being derived from a lot of external validation. And as you get further and further in your career as a professional, the journey becomes a lot more just yours and not a team. And you do become more expendable. So the external validation, you cannot rely on it a lot of times. And I had to learn how to channel confidence internally. And that was also a big shift for me in my playing career. I think what ended up helping me was being able to almost take pressure off of me in order to play more confidently. And really, I mean, I ended up honing in on a kind of, I have nothing to lose. I've got to love this. Like, I have nothing to lose. I've got to just play. Especially my last stint in Canada, even more than Brazil. I was like, why am I doing this if I'm not doing it because I love it? I've got to take some of the external validation out of it. I cannot
Hmm.
rely on it. Sometimes you jump into a team and you're new, or you jump into a team and you don't know the language. So I don't know what even they're saying to me. Are they cussing me out or are they saying great job? I mean, you could
Yeah.
kind of tell sometimes. But you can't rely on, oh, that was a good pass. Like you have so much to learn. You have to more go inward. And so I had to find ways to take pressure off of myself to build my confidence.
Hmm.
Because if I relied on those external sources that I think I once did growing up, or success you have when you're younger, when you might be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, you have to learn a different way to go about it.
Hmm. And when you say going inward, what do you truly mean by that? Is it
Mhm.
self-talk? Is it journaling? Is it talking to a therapist? Is it meditating? What are some of the things that you did in order to, go inward and like get rid of the external validation that you needed back then?
Yeah. I think going inward for me as I progressed in my career meant a couple things. Definitely, you know, I think centering myself. I ended up introducing yoga. I think at first I even thought the yoga was strictly for my physical being, but the more it helped me be present, the more it helped me slow down to breathe was huge, because you're starting to tune out noise. I really found a couple, even sayings that really worked for me. One of them being like, nothing matters.
Hmm.
One of them is a word that, I mean, I don't want to cuss on
No,
on your,
it's okay. Please
okay.
do it.
Well, I ended up really being like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Because for me, that felt like one, I can go out there, I can like, it felt powerful in a way to like grasp power instead of nothing matters, like, oh, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. It more meant like, no, I'm doing this for me. I'm going to go out and grab it. And that's really what I would say in my head because then it's just, what can you do? And nothing else matters. That really helped me. Definitely, I did find therapy later on. In Brazil, we actually were also provided with a psychologist, and that was an amazing resource that I hadn't had up until then. And so those things start to make you realize how important those parts are to your game. And I really felt a lot of growth in those spaces in the last couple years, but it took me a while to realize how important they were.
Hmm. Um, what mental state helps you the most in order to perform? Were you playing relaxed, like you're saying, or you were like more like, okay, no, we have to win. Let me tune in. What mental state do you feel like help you the most in order to perform your best?
Yeah, I definitely think the more relaxed I could make myself, the better I would perform. I think I wanted to be someone that was the more I lock in, get really intense, the better I'll do. And I think it ended up being the opposite. I remember taking the day before we traveled even to just soak in where I am. I think also you're out on your own, sometimes in very different countries, and staying grounded was really important to me and finding motivation and drive to love where I am outside of even just my sport helped me because it allowed me to enjoy the experience. And without enjoying the experience, I didn't play well.
Hmm.
And the more I got in my head about what is a coach thinking about my performance, what's this player thinking about playing next to me, how are these three passes at practice? Is that going to affect my playing time? The more I fixated on those, the worse I did. So kind of going back to fuck it,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go after it. So sorry. Um, that is what allowed me to channel my best performances.
Hmm. It's fun you say that because, and again, I wish I knew before, but when I first came to the US, I went to Kansas in a town with 5,000 people. So, the experience of the sports was not good at all. Um, of course, there was, if I knew better, of course, I could look at things in a much better way and enjoy that experience. But of course, it took time for me to learn those things. But it makes so much sense because once I didn't like the town, then I stopped playing, and now I just hate it all.
Yeah.
So that makes so much sense if we can just enjoy the experience. And I feel like a lot of people listening to us are probably international students here
Mm.
in the US that are playing something, and they probably are not performing well or they don't like the town that they're at. But if you just focus on the experience and maybe look back a little bit, I feel like there's so much we can do if we
Mhm.
just start to enjoy the little things.
Yeah, yeah, I think it gives you more purpose outside of even what you're going after, even if it's you're an international student studying and it's you're going after a degree or a way of life or, a certain career you're hoping to come out of it. Whatever it is, I think it's important to find something else, uh whether it's a hobby, whether it's studying a language, whether it's going, out in nature that gives you one other thing to divert your focus if what you're going after sometimes isn't always at a high.
Yeah.
because then it affects you less.
Yeah. I would like to go back to the nothing matters because when you are going to a game and you're thinking about nothing matters or simply fuck it, um, are you thinking about your performance? Are you thinking about the team winning at the end of the day, but you don't care as much as your performance, or you care more about how you perform?
I think nothing matters to me really ended up in for me the most important thing was that I want to love what I'm doing, but I love the people around me so much. I want what makes them happy as well. So it really was about winning. I mean, being at Santos, you feel it. You feel
Mhm.
the energy being down in Brazil. On any team you're playing on in Brazil, you feel that energy. And so it's always a part of you. I want to make the fans excited. I want to make my coach happy who recruited me. I want to make my teammates happy so that we enjoy the next week of training. So all of those things mattered so much. Um, and then nothing matters to me. Help me tune out all the noise of the stuff that didn't get in that got in the way of what was most important.
Mhm.
And so it was a way to, it has almost the opposite meaning than it sounds. Is what is all the things that do not serve you, and you can wish them away.
Mhm.
You even mentioned when you were talking about going inward, and I forgot to mention the self talk. And I think that ended up being so helpful for me, specifically self talk out loud. I think is a huge difference than just working on self talk in your head. And with nothing matters too, allowing talking to myself and developing that skill again helped me get in tune with what serves me, what's not serving me, and how am I receiving all of this? What am I saying to myself that in the end is going to affect my performance?
Mhm. Yeah, and I feel, and you can correct me if you disagree, but I feel like the best way to make the coach happy, make your teammates happy, and the fans happy is almost if you focus on yourself
Yeah,
and try to do your best,
right.
and then yes, everyone else is also gonna be happy. Do you feel that way?
Yes, 100%. I think that even in life, I actually think taking care of yourself first is what serves your relationships. It's what serves what your goals are. Even if your goals are to make someone else happy, taking care of yourself is what's going to achieve that. I think a lot of times people have that in reverse. They expend so much energy trying to make other people happy first that their relationships falter or because they're not in a good place themselves. And
Mhm.
so I don't think it's a selfish thing for people to say, what do I really need right now? Because then that will translate into the people around you. So I very much agree with that.
100%. Yeah, I love that. Being a soccer player, it's not easy, and I feel like uncertainty in any athlete's life, it's one of the biggest things. Um, how how did you do, and how you still deal with uncertainty about your next move, about your future?
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned before, uncertainty was something I was not accustomed to that I've had to grow very much more accustomed to because I wanted structure. I wanted to know what next year was going to bring. I wanted a mental idea around where I'm going to live, all of those things. And I chose a career. Uh, and I continue to choose careers that are a bit up to not chance, but they're unpredictable.
Hmm.
Um, for soccer, even if you sign a 2-year contract, it is unpredictable how you might feel, how your team might do. So I really, with uncertainty, I think that one of the biggest things for me was to have trust in myself that what I was doing day to day is going to prepare me best for what comes up next. And you can't nail it in more than that because it's so uncertain. The phone call that happens tomorrow could be sending me to a different country on Friday. And so what ended up happening, I learned it through it just happening to me and then trusting that process, was okay, how can I best prepare myself to take an opportunity if it comes? And even in the year or over the past couple years, I decided to keep studying Portuguese. And that was really difficult outside of Brazil to keep up a different language. And there's moments where you're like, God, is this worth all my time? Is this a good thing to do? But if you have trust in that process of, I love this, this might help serve an opportunity that happens in the future. Um, and then it did. It came full circle. And, I got to interview a Brazilian player in Portuguese back here in the United States recently. And so I think that preparation, knowing that what you're doing is preparing you for a future opportunity, allows you to let go of what's uncertain.
Mhm. So, do you feel like you like the feeling of uncertainty?
I don't think I will ever like the feeling of uncertainty, but I think that there are tools that you gain and that you can work on to help it not feel so daunting, to help it not encumber your mental health as much.
Mhm.
And that's where I feel the biggest difference. I wouldn't go after being uncertain. However, I also think that some of the most uncertain things that have happened in my life have been some of my best experiences in the world. And so, in a way, I guess I'm okay with the fact that uncertainty might bring those things. And so,
Mhm.
now that I know that, it's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and you talked about preparing yourself for whatever happens tomorrow. What does that mean? How do you prepare yourself for
hmm
the uncertainty that will bring tomorrow?
Yeah. There's been a balance I've had to strike with what you're talking about because you can only do so many things every day when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so I think finding yourself, being really intentional about what do I want? What do I love? And leaning into those things. I think the right things happen when you lean into what you love. And for me, a lot of that was, I loved soccer. And for a very long time, I wanted to play at the next level, at the next level. So I knew going out and training a couple hours a day when I was out of contract was still worth it. And that was what was going to prepare myself for if the phone rang. Because if the phone rang and I had to be somewhere in a week, I had to be prepared.
Mhm.
Um, so at that phase of my life, a lot of it was training. And some of it, even with sports media, as I've gotten more into sports media, some of that was shadowing, making phone calls on days where I didn't have a sports media job. But if shadowing someone, if making a contact might help me if the phone rings and then I have to know how to go do something. So for me, it was what do I really love and why? And how can I work on that today?
Mhm. How being in different cultures changed the way you think? Maybe your mindset, the perspective that you look at things, the world. Did anything even change? Real quick before we get back. As a vegan and a hybrid athlete, what I eat matters. And when it comes to quality, I don't compromise. That's why I have partnered with CaliforniaAvocadosDirect.com. They deliver fresh, hand-picked avocados straight from their family farm to your door. No middleman, no guessing, just real fuel that supports how I train and recover. They even offer subscriptions so you're never running out. And my followers get an exclusive discount code which you can check on the show notes. And big thanks to California Avocados Direct for powering this episode and helping me stay fueled the right way. Now, let's get back into the show.
Yeah. It changed everything.
Mhm.
It's almost really, really difficult to choose how it changed because I think travel and immersing yourself in a different culture just opens up your whole world. It opens up your whole world while you're there. And even more so when you come home because you start seeing what you did every day before you had that perspective of a different culture and you look at it differently. Even something simple like this literally just popped into my head, but walking around this last Halloween in America, being
Mhm.
like, this is what I did every single year when I was younger. You dress up, you know what to expect from decorations, candy. And then now I've traveled to different cultures who don't celebrate Halloween nearly the and I come back here and I can look at it so differently. That's just one holiday and one silly little thing. But then, there's bigger things it's taught me. Being in Puerto Rico, I played in Puerto Rico for a year, and a lot of my values changed as I lived in Puerto Rico. I slowed down. I stopped kind of giving into a full hustle culture or, a checklist of I need to get all these things done in a day to feel good. Life slowed down a little bit. And now I channel that when I'm back here of I feel good when I take a couple things off my plate so that I can spend a couple more hours just with who I'm with or rush a little less. So
Yeah.
it's hard. Broad answer, but it really has changed everything.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I only lived in Brazil and here, and everything changes a little bit every day when I look at things, like just when I was in college and I went to someone's house for Christmas, it was different. But now about to have a Christmas with my family and
Mhm.
then Thanksgiving coming up and all those things, and I've been and in the US, if you are just in different states, it's already
Yeah.
a lot different. My wife is from Louisiana. Some of the things that she says, I don't even know what she's saying, but she means the same thing, So it's interesting. It's open, mind opening in a way as well. And I think, yeah, if people have the chance to not only to travel, but truly, like you said, immerse yourself into another culture, like it's mind blowing how different things
Yeah.
are, and
Yeah.
not bad and not good. It's just different.
Yeah, and I think even people who, yeah, don't have the opportunity to travel or live somewhere else, I think it can be done by not closing off friendships or people in your community that might
Mhm.
be different from you. Even if they're a different culture from you, or they're studying something different from you, or they have a different belief from you. Uh, it's really easy when you're, especially in a bit more of a comfortable space, to just gravitate towards the people that are similar. But I think we can challenge that more.
100%. Um, what inspired you to move out of the game, stop, not necessarily stop playing, but move from playing the game to build something that supports women's in sport?
Um, I think I always approached every soccer season I was on. Again, I tried to be as objective as possible. Am I playing because I still love it? Am I playing because, I'm at the highest level? Am I playing because I have a great opportunity? Am I playing because I get to travel? And as I evolved in every year, I think my answer always changed. The reason why I played in different types of places was always maybe for a different reason. And then in between, I was trying to search of what else drives me. What else do I find interesting? And I love soccer the same, but I also think I was growing in a place where not soccer wasn't fulfilling every part of me. There was
Mhm.
a way where I loved business. I loved some of the conversations I would have off the field, and I could feel that fueling something in me that just being on the field didn't. And so I tested those waters when I was home or when I was away on a season and it was possible. I would make a phone call, try to figure out what are these other things that I'm enjoying. And so that helped me make the first step of not just recommitting to play another season because I didn't have something else lined up, but taking a moment to explore this media side. And the more I explored it, the more I really enjoyed my sport from a different lens. And I wasn't expecting to have that so soon. I actually thought sports media, I was going to do my best to stay a bit away from soccer because I was too close to the game. I thought, how am I going to be on the sidelines and not want to just step on the field? But it grew on me way more than I thought it would, a lot quicker, where I was seeing things that I experienced being on the female side, being a female athlete, that I was seeing already in even small ways I could make better for another generation or another person, even my age, doing the same thing, highlighting a story I wish I could have told, or, giving a platform to someone who didn't necessarily hasn't had the opportunity yet to explain part of themselves. So, um, I think just being in and around that space allowed me to then check in and say, oh, I'm really loving this.
Mhm. So it seems to me that you have a mindset that is very not necessarily open, but very flexible. You
Mm.
have no problem with changing the way you think about things. And and when I think about soccer sports and soccer players specifically, especially in Brazil, I feel like they have like, no, this is the way. Like this is how it's supposed to be done. Um, like how crazy are you to go somewhere else? You know what I mean? Um, do you feel like the mindset, and it could be different here in the US, in Canada, for you especially, but do you feel like that type of mindset that you have, it's different than most people in sports, and that might be one of the things that took you a little bit out of the locker room, for example?
Yes. I think that's a really cool observation because it is something even I battled with was how am I explaining to someone why I want to do something different? Or, on my off day, like I might want to not do something that maybe another teammate wants to do. Maybe I want to read my economic newsletter. Like there were things that I was like, I felt I did feel a little different, but also I think a lot of people feel different, but sometimes there's a lot of pressure on you to do what makes more sense, which is if you can play another 4 or 5 years, why aren't you doing that? And I had to let go and really work through a lot of that pressure. I had an opportunity to go play in Portugal earlier this year, and with learning Portuguese, with playing in the Portuguese league, it was such a draw for me. And I found that it was more difficult to explain to other people. I was finding such a need to explain to other people why I wouldn't take it. And I remember my dad being like, "It sounds like you don't want to go." And I'm like, "I do want to go. I just, and it was always a battle of trying to explain why I would want to think another way. I think a lot of players don't allow themselves the space to consider other things because I think it is more similar across athletes, but it's difficult. And I think that's why our identity gets so tied into our sport is because we go from one contract to the next contract to the next one. We don't see something else we want to get into because we're not allowing space for ourselves to figure that out. Um, and so it's something that anyone struggles with. Even will struggle with. I mean, I'm feel like an athlete, a professional player. My identity will still always relate to that, but I worked really, really hard at different points of my career, not just when I was stopping, to figure out what else I loved.
Yeah, I love that. And in a way, I'm so happy you didn't go to Portugal, because I feel like a lot of people, when they get to that point where they have to explain to other people why they are not going to do what you're supposed to do, that's
Yeah.
when they're just like, you know what, I think I probably should go, right?
Mm.
And then people end
Right.
up going, and then you just get caught up in that cycle where
Yeah.
um, you just don't feel happy, you don't feel fulfilled, and you just don't know what to do, right? And I feel like that happens a lot. That happens to me when I was trying to come here, because I was in Brazil, playing for academy, and like about to go professional and about to get this contract, and I was like, you know what, I don't love this uncertainty of not knowing if I'm
Mhm.
gonna play, if I'm gonna have a contract or not. And even if I do, I can barely pay the bills, and we're gonna travel on this horrible bus. That's not what I expected when I thought about being a soccer player. And then, I mean, I came in 2018, and soccer was growing but not as big still. And then people are like, I mean, what are you gonna do there? Like, nobody even watch soccer there. um I mean, of course, I didn't go professional or anything like that, but just like coming here changed my life completely,
Yeah.
not only in terms of soccer, but my life in general, relationships, everything is because I made a decision a long time ago to come.
Well,
And I feel like a lot of people, you know were questioning me, why would you go to a country that nobody cares about soccer, but it was one of the best decisions I made in my life. As much as maybe I didn't play as much as I wanted to play, but still,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So I'm glad you didn't go to Portugal.
Yeah, and even, it reminds me even what you're talking about of something that actually helped me make my decisions, whether they were travel to the other side of the world and play soccer or stay closer to home, was I started learning it doesn't matter even what contract I sign, I'm never locked in to any circumstance. So even for you deciding to come to America, like the way I started thinking about it was, well, I'm going to go to Finland and reminding myself I'm not being forced to stay in Finland.
Mhm,
Sometimes you're in a contract, but you figure it out. They don't want you somewhere where you're miserable as much as you don't want
mhm,
yourself somewhere where you're miserable. And that allowed me to take more risks in my life because I wasn't as scared of, oh my God, I'm stuck and I'm going to be isolated, or I'm stuck and I might hate it. I was thinking I might be I might hate it, but then I'll come home.
mhm.
Or then I'll, call an agent and figure something out. I'll communicate to the people there and just be really honest on what's happening. So that allowed me to take a lot more risks, was to kind of have that part of my mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so one of the last things I have here, and it's just a rapid fire round. I did not send it to you on purpose because I didn't want you to think about it. Nothing too hard. But I'll just say whatever the question or whatever the prompt is, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right. So one word that describes your mindset right now.
Hmm. Well, I want to say flexible, but you called me. That's because you said that. But I actually do, and I like it.
Yeah,
Flexible.
that's fine. Perfect. A quote or a mantra you live by.
Nothing matters.
Love that. I heard that not too long ago. One habit that keeps you centered.
Hmm. I would say, positive self talk out loud.
Out loud.
Out loud. Yeah,
Love
it's
it.
important.
In public.
I think in your car.
Okay, that's better. Yeah. Sometimes I'm in my car and people can see me through the window talking to myself, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I
Yeah.
hope this guy is on the phone
Yeah.
because that doesn't look good." Um, a country that changed you the most and why.
I I can't not answer Brazil.
Mhm,
And that is because I fell in love with the culture, but it helped me find the parts of me that were also Brazilian and made it connected me to my family, even family members that passed away. I felt closer to um, after they had even passed away. So just Brazil just gave me such a gift in that.
your go-to reset when you're off mentally.
Breathing.
Breathing. Like just you do a meditation or what do you do for breathing?
I think like there's something called box breathing. So it just
Hmm.
allows you to breathe slower. And I just think it disrupts whatever you're going through. Even if it's an overall life thing, if it's not even one instance, but at the end of the day, if you just allow it, allows you to ease your mind. And so uh, definitely breathing exercises have helped me.
Love it. One thing you wish more athletes understood about mindset.
That you have to address your mental health. Um, and I say that because for athletes specifically, we still want to rely on our strength and our physicality and our talent. And I think if every single person in the athletic industry knows you have to address your mental health, things would be different. Policies would be different. Resources would be different.
Hmm. I I love it. Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time. Uh, I loved to learn a little bit more about your mindset if I could just, I have a lot of guests on the podcast, and if
Yeah.
I could just pick one little thing that they have in their mindset and add to my mindset, I would be, I don't know, one of the greats.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, and I love how, um, not only adaptable but flexible you were and you are. Thanks so much for sharing that. It means a lot.
Yeah, no problem. I love the concept of these conversations and I think it's awesome. So thanks for having me on.